welcome to episode 1 of Huge Talk. I am Darren Barker, you know I am. This is my old mentor, trainer, Tony Sims, and middleweight prospect, Jimmy Sains. Jimmy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks. Legs are a little bit sore from the triangle, but yeah, I'm here anyway.
Tony was useless, wasn't he?
He's not as good as you, mate.
Where, mate? What was
I was telling him this morning when I was saying Darren Barker would smoke you on these triangle, mate.
Who do you reckon would have given me my hardest battle around that triangle?
Well, there's a couple of good, like Conor Ben's very fast on there. Jules Liddard, he's constant on his times. Martin Ward used to be good on there as well. I think you'd have been one of the best on there, though. Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
I think I would have been the governor. How are you finding it, Gio? I want to jump straight in to the pros. 7-0 now. 7 knockouts.
Yeah.
It's easy, isn't it? It's an easy game.
To be honest, the training, like the triangles and that we've just saying that I've been doing, it's the training camps are harder than the fights so far. Anyway, that is. I mean, the opponents I've been having are not world level. Obviously, they're not. But I'm slowly stepping up the stages. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and this is what I've done my whole life anyway. Boxing, it's always been everything I've done in my life has been around boxing. Boxing's always come first. So to be doing it as a job, it's just unbelievable, yeah.
He says they're not world beaters, but they know how to survive, don't they, those opponents? So still getting rid of all 7 is impressive.
Yeah, like you say, Dal, because you was at his stage, 7-0, and it's not always, don't matter who the fighter is, whether they're journeyman or whatever they are, it ain't always easy to get rid of them inside the distance. As you know, some of them want to last the rounds so they can go box the following week and get payday. So, but I always knew Jimmy could punch. Obviously, he was knocking people out in the amateurs, so he was already heavy-handed before he come into the pros. So I don't know whether he'll get to Nigel Benn's 22-0 with 22 knockouts. But
Is that what it was?
yeah, but he's definitely on the way.
You are on the way. Yeah. You mentioned the amateurs there. Let's go back. You got a big fight on December the 13th, which we'll get to later on. But the same amateur, there's a lot of similarities, Tone, between me and Jimmy in the sense that we come from the Repton Amateur Boxing Club, both middleweights now. How did you hear of Jimmy in the amateurs?
I heard of him down at the Repton, and he was winning like junior titles, and as you know, like I still have a close association with people at the Repton, and obviously Tony Burns Senior was a good friend of mine and junior, and I've always stayed close to the Repton, and I'd heard about Jimmy as a junior knocking opponents out, so I kept my eye on him, and then his dad rang me one day and said he was in lockdown, and he said, "Can Jimmy come to the gym?" I think he was a teenager then, and he said, "Can he come to the gym and do some training?" Because obviously the amateur clubs was closed then, but pro gyms was open still, and so he come to the gym, and he was welterweight then, and done a bit of sparring in the gym, and it's kind of stayed with us ever since.
Mm. And you're from a sporty background, right? Your brother plays football?
Yeah, so I've got everyone in my family's some sort of sport. I've got my brother plays football for Ipswich. He's only 16. My dad played for football West Ham, I think from around the age of 7 or 8 till he was about 19.
Did you really? Yeah. Why did you not play football?
I tried, but I was no good at football. Really, the smart thing to do was play football. But like everyone in my family, my uncle was a pro footballer at Southend. I think my dad's granddad was played for Thames Ironworks before it was West Ham as a pro. So yeah, quite a big football family, a sporting family. So I don't know why boxing. I think I was just always aggressive. My granddad boxed in the Navy when he was younger. So always on the football pitch, my job was to tackle, get the ball, push them out of the way and pass to the players who could do a bit on the ball. Do you know what I mean? So, that's always I was always known for that, like being strong and aggressive. But obviously, that's better for boxing, really.
But how did you, or why did you rather take up boxing? Can you remember going to the gym for the first time?
Yeah, I remember going to the gym in Raynham. It wasn't actually a proper boxing amateur gym there. It's more of a fitness gym, but had a boxing ring in it. One of the first ever memory I've got of boxing is like they're starting the class, and they said, right, everyone warm up. I started warming up, and I went to the mirror, and I threw, just going like that, throwing two hands at the same time. And the coach come over to me, he was like, no, you're doing it wrong. And then obviously I learned how to punch properly. But the first time I sparred was Brentwood Boxing Club when I was around 6 or 7, and I remember I got an absolute pasting the first time from a boy.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, there's exactly the typical story. You get a good pasting, and then the coaches ain't sure whether you're going to come back or not. Then I come back, and then just loved it. Never always, since the age of 5 or 6, I can't remember a time where I haven't been boxing or training for a fight or getting ready for a fight. So yeah.
So that was Brentwood.
Brentwood Boxing.
How many fights did you have for Brentwood?
Probably had around 25 for Brentwood. Got to a couple of schoolboy finals. Then I moved to Newham, which is another East London club, which is an unbelievable club there. Joe Chapman's still there. He's been there for, I think around 30 years. So Newham was
Bradley
great.
Spong there?
No,
he was at Repton. He went to Newham.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I was there. I probably had probably about 20 fights there. Won my first national title there at Newham. But then Newham was a really good schoolboy club. Had loads of like youngsters up to around 14. And then when I was about 15, I made the move to Repton, which was and Newham is in London, so I was weighing in for the championships. It'd be 3 or 4 Newham boys, and the rest would just be Repton. Do you know what I mean? It weren't saying like, when you're weighing for the championships, you weren't thinking, who you fighting, what club you got. You're saying which Repton boy you got. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Repton was every single weight. They had a Repton boy. So, I made the move to Repton when I was around 14. 14, 15 is probably the best thing I've ever done in terms of my boxing career. Bobby Bett's he didn't look after me, but when I went into the youths, he didn't let me fight for about a year. I just was in the gym sparring, training hard and working for all the time. And then when he did eventually let me fight, I went into the championships and I won it. So, he kept me back a little bit to work on myself. And but the sparring I had there was a bit similar to what I now. The sparring I had now as a pro and the training we was doing was so much easier than the fighting. The fighting was the easy bit. But it was the training and the hard graft in the gym that got me through it.
It's mad, the Repton, don't you think? But all the years, it's just had that effect on so many people. And Jimmy mentioned the sparring there. That was a big thing, I think, for me. But even when you was boxing, it was a similar thing, wasn't it? You know, you'd go to the York or go wherever, and there's the green and gold, the green and yellow tracksuits, and they were just swamped, wouldn't they? But it weren't just a numbers game, was it? Every fighter from the Repton was decent, weren't they?
Yeah, as you say, he's steeped in history, and as we're going back to talking about Tony Burns Senior, he really was the Repton, and he made the Repton club what it became. He's through him, and he got so established that it was probably become the most famous club in the world. Repton, green and gold colours, and when you look at the champions they produce, it's non-stop, the amount of champions they produce, national champions, Olympic champions, and obviously top amateurs from that club turning pro and then becoming world champions like yourself.
Stop it. You know when you was at Repton, because you was there for a little while, weren't you?
Yeah.
Was that the old club?
Yeah, so the old Repton, the premises it is now is the old Turkish bars in Brick Lane.
That's it, yeah.
But before that, in the mid-70s, it was in a working man's club just off of Bethnal Green Road, and that was bang opposite where I lived in my flat. So you'd go, it was underneath the working man's club, like in the cellar, and it was obviously it wasn't as nice as the club they moved to, but the council moved. I remember the council moving the club across to the Turkish Baths in Brick Lane, and obviously they've stayed there ever since. But even in my day, there was like top fighters that you looked up to, like Sylvester Mitty and Colin Derrick, and there's all the top fighters there then. And as you say, they've always had top national champions there.
I don't think they're going to be going anywhere either, because I think there's a 900 and saying year lease at that site, so I think they're there for a long time. But can you remember walking in the Repton for the first time? And what it meant to you? Because I can, and that's the reason I'm asking the question. Like, my dad boxed there, my brother boxed there after me, and just, Tony mentioned some of the names there, Sylvester Mitty, blah blah blah, like so many top fighters. But I remember walking through the doors and almost being starstruck, because whenever I bought the boxing news, I'd always go to the back and look at the amateurs, obviously, because I'm an amateur, and I remember thinking, "There's all the Harrison." Commonwealth Games gold medalist, Courtney Fryer, Commonwealth Games gold medalist, Danny Appy, ABA champion, Tony CJ, ABA champion, Andrew Wallace. I mean, the list goes on. Andrew Lowe, who you ended up training after, Daniel Cadman. All of these fighters were down there. And I don't know if, well, I guess it was, because it was swamped in history and you had all of those fighters there. Success bred success. You didn't want to be one of the useless fighters, Daniel. You wanted to be one of the good fighters. I guess it was the same for you, yeah?
You wanted to be known as national. There's always a few, obviously. It's a bit of a competition, like you said, who could win the most national titles.
Yeah.
Who could get through London first, do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, like you said, I always remember the first time I went down there as well. Just
looking at pictures of myself.
Looking at the pictures of you in the wall. No, do you know what? When I first went down there, I think Tony Burns Senior, he came up to me and he went, probably I've been there around a week or two. He came up to me, he went, "You're new, ain't you?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "What's your name?" I went, "Oh, I'm Jimmy Sains." He went, "How many national titles you won then?" And at the time, I'd only won one. And he went, "One? That's fucking useless." And he just bumped off. But he done that to sort of like, not to mug you off, but to sort of get in your head to make sure that you got to prove him wrong, sort of thing. But like you said, going into Repton the first time, that buzz is unbelievable. You go in there, you can just hear all the bags, all the coaches shouting, everyone's sparring. You walk in, you've got 20 boys, all national champions, lined up on the ring. The smell as well is like hot leather. I don't know, every time I go in there, it's just you get the smell and you get the buzz of the gym. It's a great environment.
I don't know if you was the same down at the Repton, but you mentioned it when you had your first spar and you got beat up. But that was the same with me at Repton. I'd spar someone, get battered, and I'd end up getting the better of them. Step up a level, get battered, end up getting the better of them. Yeah. Step up, get battered, and before I knew it, you're one of the best in the gym.
Yeah.
How important, you sort of loosely mentioned it there, was the sparring, rubbing shoulders with all those national champions?
Well, the exact same thing happened to me when I first went there. Getting bashed up in spar. I think my first time I sparred was with Dennis Buchan, Adam Mohammed. We're both pros now, and another boy called Barney Smith, who was
the same weight as Dennis Buchan.
I was the same weight as Dennis Buchan. He was 52 kilo back then. When I first went there, I think I was about the same 52, 50 kilo. I was sparring European champions straight away, European bronze medalists straight away, and getting bashed. But there was another boy there I used to spar. It was a great fight. Been to the Europeans, won multiple national titles. Used to have great sparring with him. He used to get the better of me when I was there, but a couple of years later, he actually moved to a different gym near him. It was called Body Shots, and we boxed each other in the Londons, the first round, London finals, and I actually beat him. I give him 2 standing 8s in the last round as well. So just to show, from when I first went to Repton, where I was at the level I was at, to ended up beating these sort of type of fighters, like you said, to end up one of the best at Repton.
And then a big moment come, you lose in the final of, what do they call it now? It's not the ABAs, is it? They call it
Junior ABAs or
when you lost
senior ABAs.
Yeah, you lost to. But what do they call it now? It's still the ABAs.
The elites.
The elites. Sorry, that's it. The elites. So you lose to the Scouser, Steve Clark.
Yep.
In the final.
Yep.
And then, what was it, a month after, 2 months after?
About 4 or 5 weeks after, yeah.
4 or 5 weeks after is it the Tri-Nations?
Tri-Nations.
Fighting the Tri-Nations, and you get Clark again in the final.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that fight.
Well, to be honest, the first time I lost in the final against I lost in the final the year before that, or previously, to a good fighter, Dan Towell, and I lost fair and square on the day he was the better fighter. But the second time, being in the final against Steve Clark, I thought I got the decision, but I mean, up north in the amateurs, you have to make sure you win every round. Not giving any excuses, but he won the fight. Yeah, a little bit, but you have to make sure you win anyway in the amateurs, and I didn't do enough to win, obviously. That's why it was a split decision. I lost. So I was absolutely gutted. That was always my dream, to win the Senior title. So come back to the gym after that, I think it was about 4 weeks, obviously, training with Tony, training down Repton.
So, sorry, just jump in. So Jimmy was training with you whilst he was still an amateur?
Yeah.
So that's again, another similarity. I must have done about a year with you before I turned pro.
Same thing, wasn't it? Yeah. You was training at the Repton and
both. I was doing a couple of days a week at the Repton, and then a couple of days a week with Tony and the boys down the gym. So, yeah, and then I got drawn against the Welsh boy the first day of the Tri-Nations. I stopped him, and then had the final. That Steve Clark won the finals the next day. And I got there. I stopped him in the second round. It was probably the best buzz I've had as an amateur so far. Like my whole career. Yeah, redemption.
Yeah.
In the crowd, I had my dad and then Julian from Repton, 2 people. He had about 100 people there. Well, I say 100, probably about 70 people there, all screaming his name. Completely silence after. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, it was like sort of I put the rivalry to bed. Everyone thought I'd won the final, but obviously I didn't. So it was great redemption, like you say.
Was that your last amateur fight?
That was my last amateur fight, yeah.
What was the conversation then, Tone, with Jimmy turning over or staying amateur? It was just the right time, was it?
Well, I think he wanted to turn pro the year before when he lost in the final the year before, but I just felt like he wasn't physically ready, like, because sometimes you can be a slow developer in your makeup, and I always thought Jimmy was a slow developer, and I told him to stay amateur for another year and go into the ABAs again because I felt he'd be stronger.
Yeah,
and I believe he was stronger in that ABA. I think you stopped everybody, didn't you?
On the route to the final, I knocked out Boy in a quarterfinal and in the semi-final.
Yeah, so, he knocked the boys out on the route, and then obviously he lost on that split decision that a lot of people thought he won, and then he redeemed himself by knocking the kid out in the GB. So then I felt he was ready to turn pro. Then I felt like he turned from a boy into a man in that year. So then I felt he was ready. And but I think sometimes Jimmy felt a bit frustrated that he had to keep waiting. But I think he understood what I was saying to him. You know what I mean? There's a time to turn pro, and you don't want to turn pro when your body ain't fully matured. And because you've seen it before, Dale, you can turn pro when you're immature in yourself, and you can get beat by a journeyman. You can ruin your whole life. That can, do you know what I mean? Before you even start. So you got to be ready, and because some of these journeymen are rough asses, as you know. And I can't remember what fight was it on. Was it about your 8th fight when you got put down twice?
No. Do you know what the funny thing is? Because I was having a chat with Conor Ben the other day, and it was exactly the same fight, my 11th, when he got dropped by Cedric Payno.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Not the best of memories.
That's what I'm saying. So some of these journeymen, they can pack a punch, and you can come unstuck, and you've got to be mature enough to be ready for that. You know, listen, people get put down in their careers, but you've got to be mature enough and, you know, in yourself to be able to get up and come back and win the fight like you done, and like Conor Ben. Conor Ben was Ben was quite mature actually, even though he turned pro at 19. His body and his makeup with him was quite mature. Do you know what I mean? Whereas some people at 19 are not mature. Jimmy weren't mature at 19, and so he had to wait a little bit longer. But I think, as we've seen now, with the opponents he's facing now, like we said earlier, 7 opponents, 7 KOs. He's got that maturity about him.
Is it an easy sell when you're talking to Eddie, when you've got someone like Jimmy who's knocking people out in the amateurs, as compared to somebody, you know, who does it? Because it's not really a thing in the amateurs, is it? It's certainly not in the championships where you're knocking people out and stopping people. So when you're going to Eddie, I've got this kid, well supported, he's stopping people in the amateurs. It makes life easier for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie knows Jimmy's dad anyway, so because they're from the same area. So Eddie always listen. Yeah, nice. So Eddie already knew all about Jimmy anyway. So, but listen, it's about learning now. You know that it's about these fights are all about learning, getting the right opponents, learning. It only matters when you start getting up into the titles, because that's when the money starts flowing in.
Yeah.
Now's about learning. Now's about doing your apprenticeship. And, you know, you got to learn on the job. The only way you learn is actually when you're boxing. So you do your camps, you get used to doing them tough camps. And then it's about hitting the titles and then bringing in the money, you know, and trying to set yourself up for a life after boxing. And that's what it's all about, really. And that's why you have to get the right opponents at the right time and be ready for that.
You've got another middleweight as well. I don't know. Do you reckon that's the division you've had most fighters?
Probably, yeah.
So hold on. So me, would you class Daniel Cadman as a middle when he started?
Yeah,
Cadman,
yeah.
Felix Cash,
Yeah.
John Ryder.
Yeah.
Who else would there be? There's more than that. I know there is. Yeah. Well, you now, yeah. George, Lillard. There's got to be 7, 8 perhaps.
Yeah,
middleweight.
Yeah. I think middleweight is a great weight because if you look in the past at like the reason people like middleweights, or I like middleweights, is they've still got the speed and agility of like a lightweight, but they've got the power of like an heavyweight. So you've kind of got a blend there, and that's why middleweights are so exciting to watch, because you can watch the skill of a lighter fighter, which people like to watch, but you're also going to see that explosive knockouts in that weight division as well. And that's why middleweight's always been like the blue, you know, aside from heavyweight, middleweight is the blue ribbon weight to be in, really.
I think so. I don't know if Tony's the same with you, but I could never be fast enough. It was always speed.
Yeah.
Speed. And I remember like loads of things that you've said to me has resonated. But one of the things you said is speed will take you from, you know, this level to the next level.
Yeah.
And it's true, not just hand speed, but your reactions, everything. You've got to be switched on, because this fight can go like that. Is that something that you've been consciously working on as a fighter, your speed?
Yeah, always working on being fast, coming off the slips. Always doing with a jab. Tony's always saying faster with a jab. And I think that's exactly what he said there. It's not just about throwing fast, it's about reacting fast as well.
Yeah, and how quickly the shot can come back.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to get the shot out there, admire your work, it comes back to your chest, oh, I love it, that was a good shot, and then you're caught.
Yeah.
It's so important to be switched on, and as he's not got a combination yet, has he? He's not on the wall, is he?
No, but he throws a great... I tell you what he does throw, and it's become pretty natural. He'll slip the jab and put the right hand. Across. It's like sort of becoming and he catches everyone out with it.
Slip on the outside. He's fighting an orthodox.
Yeah,
on the outside.
Yeah, slip the jab, bump right hand over the top. It's a great shot, and you've got to be. Your timing's got to be exact on point for that. It's such an hard shot to do, but it's a proper KO shot though, because if you get caught with it, you flatten people with it.
That's another thing that resonates as well. What you said to me, when you're slipping, if it can just flick your ear.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that to me, because it's fractions in this sport.
Yeah.
You know, if you go too far, you're going to see, aren't you?
Yeah.
As an opponent, you're just going to move out of the way. You're going to know shots coming. But if you can just slip it there and just feel it graze your ear and come back, that's the
because it's like not the loading up of the shot, it's the landing of the shot. So when you slip the shot and it grazes past the ear, you're already throwing your shot out. Yeah. So it's the surprise element as well as the connection. It ain't exactly like putting everything into it. It's like slip, but it's the surprise element and the speed of it and the reaction of it.
Yeah, that's something we've been working on for a long time now. It's sort of just about started to come off recently in sparring. Hopefully start to come off in the fights as well now.
Yeah, that's timing and discipline, I think. That. And there's got to be something in being a natural, I think, to be able to do that. That's an art, that's a skill. I don't know if you can teach that. Do you know what I mean? That knack of being able to do that. Just quickly, we mentioned the combinations there. Who better to explain it than you?
Yeah.
These combinations, what are they? Because when I was doing it, there was about close to 40 probably, or 30 odd.
I think there is.
I think about
50,
40,
aren't there?
50 odd.
Yeah, I think it's 50, yeah. But they're not like, you ain't got to throw them, you haven't got to throw them combinations in sequence in the fights. It'd be impossible to do. But what you do is you learn them combinations and they ingrain into your brain. So sometimes when you're in the fight, sometimes one of them combinations will come out because, as you know, a lot of it's what we were saying earlier is reactions when you're fighting. So when you're reacting to something that someone does, you can throw combinations that you've thrown a million times in the gym, the same combinations, and one of them combinations will just come off. And them combinations are built from fighters through the years that I've studied through the years and watch what combinations, because everyone, like we saying there with Jimmy, he throws that combination that he does there, bang, he throws that lovely. And so certain fighters like their favourite combinations, and so I'll write them all down in combinations and then put them into sequence, only because that's like a rhythm of throwing, so you get a rhythm of throwing that like that. And then one of them, I remember you threw, when you fought Kerry Hope, we worked on a combination on the wall, which is the double zow, when it was jab, right hand to the body, right hand to the head, left hook, 4 shots. Kerry Hope's a southpaw. It's a great combination for a southpaw, that shot. And then you threw it, his back was on the ropes. You went bang, 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 bang. I think it was at the end of the 3rd round, that was. But them combinations just sometimes come out naturally without you even having to think of them, which is sometimes when you're in the ring that you need to do.
I love the Zarate as well. That was my favourite. That long left hook in the right hand. Yeah. I used to really, really like that combination. And doing those combinations, I remember coming back from fights and, you know, the first couple of weeks, we'd usually work on the combinations and we'd have to go through them. But it sharpens up your mind.
It does,
So going through the order without making a mistake, it keeps your mind switched on. Going back to the middleweights, how do you think the division's changed since I was boxing, Tone, to now? Sort of the class, the depth, and the champions out there.
Well, obviously we had Canelo for a long time, and we had Golovkin, and you was kind of just before them. So Golovkin was just coming on the scene, wasn't it? Yeah, Frank. But like your scene British wise was a great scene, wasn't it? You had like Andy Lee, Matthew Macklin, you, Martin Murray. So it was like a phenomenal British scene without going on to the world team. And you know, I believe that as I was saying earlier, middleweights are always an exciting weight to be in. I think now is probably a good time to be a middleweight in Britain, because I don't feel as though we've got the depth that we had at your time. You know, you still got decent fighters, but you've got the likes of Brad Pauls as British champion, and I think Kieran Conway's fighting for the Commonwealth title.
He is, yeah.
So you you've still got decent fighters about, but I don't know whether they would be in the class of when you was all about. So it's probably a good time now to come through
for
as
a new
middleweight
star to come through.
Yeah,
But it must be exciting for you, Jimmy, knowing that you could be one of the next stars of this famous division.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're looking at some of the champions. Janabek, I was watching him the other week. I think he was fighting in Australia. That level is just, he's an unbelievable fighter. To be up at that level like that, it's just, it's a dream to win a world title in such a great division, like Tony was saying, where you're big enough to have that knockout power, but you're light enough as well to have that speed and skillful as well. So, it's a great division.
What was again, something else that you said to me, I remember you sit me down in the office of the old gym and say, right, this is what we're going to do as a pro. You're going to go Southern Area, British Commonwealth, European world title. And I remember sat there and going, flipping it, Jimmy, I can do it. He said, yeah, you put your mind to it, you'll be able to do it. Is that a similar sort of route for Jimmy?
Yeah, that's the route that you would ideally like to take. I think that the problem and the difference between today and when you was boxing as well is there's a lot of other opportunities for prospects to take. So sometimes, like, you get to Southern Area, like you get mandatory for Southern Area now, and then the Southern Area, the kids in the Southern Area don't want to fight you.
Yeah.
You get to the English, and then kids in England don't want to fight you. So you can get to that, you can get into that stage. It's a bit like John Ryder, when John was ready to fight for Southern Area. No one wanted to fight him. No one wanted to fight him for the English title. And then he ended up fighting Billy Joe Saunders in his first title fight for the British title. So sometimes that can happen. But ideally, that would be the route that you would like to take, the old established route. But we'll have to wait and see who's about at the time when he's ready to fight for them titles.
You mentioned John there. How good is it having John Ryder in the gym? It's mad to think. Have you sparred with John?
Yeah, I sparred.
Yes,
Yeah.
we both sparred with John.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
That makes me feel less old. He sparred with the same person. But it must be brilliant having John around in the gym. How much advice and knowledge he can give you, and he's a good crack, isn't he, John?
Yeah, John's a great crack. He's always taking a piss out of everything. There's some of the silly jokes he comes out with are funny, but the knowledge he has as well is unbelievable. I mean, apart from winning the world title, which I thought he had done as well, I thought that Callum Smith was tight. Apart from that, he's done everything. I think he's fought Vegas. He's headlined top of the bill against Canelo in Mexico. I mean, you can't really get much bigger than that.
No, incredible. Before I talk about your goals and aspirations, big fight coming up on December 13th, the huge project.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe this when I looked at your record, because I just assumed that you would have boxed it, but you've never boxed at York Hall.
I've never boxed at York Hall.
But what about as an amateur? You must have.
No.
You never boxed at York Hall?
No.
You boxed for Repton and you never boxed at York Hall?
I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
I never knew that.
You've never boxed at York Hall, ever?
No, never.
Wow.
Never boxed there.
What buzz?
They used to do the championships there. The London finals were always there when I was coming through, but for some reason I think there was a lot of trouble. I don't know what happened, but a lot of time they stopped having the amateur boxing there for a long period. And when they started back, couple of Repton shows I was meant to fight. Day before, opponents pulled out. They couldn't get me an opponent. There's just a few different reasons the shows didn't go ahead. Just a few different things that didn't never end up getting to fight there. So it's going to be my first time. And I've been to the York Hall probably over 100 times, watching the boxing myself, pro and amateur. So to be fighting there for the first time, I'm looking forward to it.
It was the venue I boxed most at, amateur and pro.
Yeah, I think I boxed there quite a few times. I think there in my day, definitely, and probably in your day, it was like most London shows was at the York Hall.
Yeah.
Most championships was held at York Hall. And like you say, I don't really know what happened on the way. Maybe the prices of York Hall become too much for the amateur clubs to contend with, but because they tend to be in, like, the amateur shows tend to be in a lot of gyms now, don't they? If you know what I mean. So perhaps that might be the reason why. But funny you saying that, because I was talking to George Liddard yesterday, and he's never boxed at the York Hall either.
Yeah.
So it's all like you're all making your debuts there, which is a great thing to. I mean, if you boxed like in your lifetime, you want to say that you boxed at the York Hall because that is the home of boxing, especially in London, where we're from. So it's a great experience to actually fight there.
I think it's the one venue that I've never paid to get into.
Really?
Pretty sure. Rectory was quite adapt to not paying to get in.
Always, I'll just go through.
I
shouldn't give away my secrets here, but you go around the back and through the changing room where the swimming pool is, and you're in.
Charlie's got a padlock on it this time.
Yeah. Just talking about Charlie, your son, putting on this show, you must be proud of him. It's brilliant what he's doing, the content that he's building around the show, and most importantly, giving fighters, up-and-coming fighters, the opportunity to stay busy. Yeah,
and like you say, Charlie boxed at the Repton, by the way, that people don't know. Yeah, the fights there as well. So he's an ex-Repton boy, but he's been around boxing all his life. And he understands boxing. He's had a big managerial career in boxing as well, so he understands it all, and he's been around it all his life. So, he felt it was the right time to maybe put a show on. We got a lot of kids in the gym who are big ticket sellers, and they want to when fighters are young in their career, they want to fight like every week. You know what it's like, Dal. Do you know what I mean? You just want to keep fighting because you want to keep learning and keep busy. And the big shows are obviously you want to get on all the big shows, but that's not possible. Because a lot of them are up north, and they're all over the country. Or now, there are a lot of the big shows are in Saudi, or they're all over. So Charlie felt that there's a need to keep the youngsters active, and by putting on these shows at the York Hall, it keeps the boys active, puts some money in their pocket as well, obviously, which they need, and it's just to keep busy really, and it's quite exciting time to watch him how he's promoting this show, and he knows a lot about. He's done a university course in directing and producing, so he knows about how things should run in production-wise. So, it should be a good show, December the 30th.
And storytelling as well. Everyone's got a story, and I think that's what makes boxing so great. The narratives and the stories that come from the individuals that take part in the sport. So to capture all of these stories is brilliant, and yours is a good one. Do you know what I mean? Where you've been steered into boxing away from football, I guess, and now kind of you'd have to say with 7 fights, 7 wins, 7 knockouts, that the world is your oyster. So December 13th, first fight at York Hall. Yep. Assuming that all goes well, what are the plans, the goals, and your aspirations moving forward?
Well, assuming December 13th all goes well, next year hopefully get a couple weight rounders in the bank, and then looking for titles. Hopefully, depends what's around at the time. Like Tony said, it might be difficult to get opponents, but hopefully we can get the southern area.
In what? And the year? Within a year?
Within 6 months, ideally, I would.
Sooner than that, really, because he's got a fight scheduled January the 31st at the Indigo on a Matchroom show, and then that will be an 8-rounder. Probably the fight after that,
right?
Maybe in April, late March, April. So within his next couple of fights.
So 13 for them. 2 fights later, first title.
Yeah, you boxed for your title on your 10th fight, then.
Was it 10th? Was it?
Yeah, so this will be his 8th fight. Yeah, so he'll be ready to go another 2 fights.
Try to beat me.
Yeah.
So then to go down the route, winning the British.
Follow the route you took. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I would love to win the British and the Commonwealth, but ultimately the main goal is a world title. Something that I've looking at the Repton and say, coming back to the Repton again, But to get on that wall, to win like a senior heavyweight title, to get on that wall was unbelievable. But this is my goal for the pros, definitely, to get on Tony's wall. He's got a similar wall to Jim, but to get on there and be world title, that's definitely the goal.
Jim, all the best, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Tim.
One more thing we didn't know about Jimmy.
Go on.
He's 7-0, 7 KOs.
Yeah.
And his middle name's Seven.
So I had to do it on the 7th one. Yeah. Yeah, middle name 7.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I said.
Seven.
Severn. Like the River Severn.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Good story.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So that was episode 1 with Tony and Jimmy Sains for Huge Talk. Remember, you can subscribe at Huge Boxing Club for all the content of the show coming up on December 13th and beyond. Thanks for joining us.